Day 188, Jonah chapter 1, 2, 3 and 4. Hello and welcome. Today, we are journeying through all 4 chapters of the book of Jonah. Many people know Jonah as the man who was swallowed by a great fish, but the story is actually much deeper than that. It is a story about running, surrendering, second chances, compassion, and the heart of God. The story begins with God giving Jonah a clear instruction. He tells him to go to Nineveh and preach against its wickedness. Instead of obeying, Jonah heads in the opposite direction. God says, "Go east." And Jonah goes west. He boards a ship to Tarshish, hoping to get away from the Lord. How relatable is that? Many people may not run physically, but they run emotionally and spiritually. God may be calling someone to forgive, to serve, to start something new, to make a difficult decision, or to let go of something unhealthy. Yet instead of responding, they delay, distract themselves, or choose another path. Jonah reminds us that disobedience often feels easier at first. The ship was available. The fare was affordable. The journey had already begun. But just because a door opens does not mean God opened it. Running from God's purpose may change your location, but it never changes God's call. God knows where we are. He sees our fears. He understands our excuses. And He lovingly continues to pursue us. As Jonah sails away, God sends a violent storm. The sailors are terrified. Cargo is thrown overboard. Everyone on the ship is suffering because of one man's rebellion. Meanwhile, Jonah is asleep below deck. Eventually, the sailors discover that Jonah is the cause of the crisis. This part of the story teaches an important lesson for today. We sometimes believe our decisions affect only us, but our actions often influence family members, co-workers, friends, students, employees, and even strangers. A parent's attitude can shape a household. A leader's choices can affect an entire organization. A teacher's commitment can influence a generation of children. Likewise, unresolved issues, hidden disobedience, or poor decisions can create storms that others must endure. The good news is that obedience also spreads blessings. Just as one person's disobedience affected many people, one person's faithfulness can positively impact many lives. No life is lived in isolation. What we do matters to more people than we think. After being thrown into the sea, Jonah is swallowed by a great fish prepared by God. For 3 days and 3 nights Jonah remains inside. Imagine the darkness, the silence, the discomfort, the uncertainty. Yet something remarkable happens there. Jonah prays. Sometimes God does His deepest work in the places we would never choose for ourselves. Many people have experienced a fish moment. It may be a job loss, a failed relationship, a financial setback, a season of loneliness, a disappointment that completely changed life plans. Those moments can feel like endings. But in Jonah's story, the fish was not punishment alone. It was preservation. The fish kept Jonah alive long enough for him to return to God's purpose. We encounter a man whose heart is changing. He remembers God, cries out to Him, and renews his commitment. Your lowest place may become the very place where God rebuilds you. Never assume that a difficult season means God has abandoned you. Sometimes He is preparing you for the next chapter. One of the most beautiful verses in the book is found in Jonah chapter 3. The word of the Lord came to Jonah a second time. Those words are full of hope. Not the first time, the second time. God could have chosen another prophet. God could have given up on Jonah. Instead, He restores him and repeats the assignment. Many people carry regrets, mistakes from years ago, lost opportunities, poor decisions, moments they wish they could erase. But Jonah's story reminds us that failure does not always mean the end of God's plans. A setback is not necessarily a disqualification. When God gives another opportunity, He is not pretending the failure never happened. Rather, He is demonstrating His grace. The second chance still requires obedience. Jonah had to get up and go to Nineveh. Your past mistakes do not have to determine your future usefulness. If God gave Jonah another opportunity, He can help us begin again too. Jonah finally enters Nineveh and delivers God's message. The results are astonishing. The people believe God. The king humbles himself. The city repents. From the greatest to the least, hearts begin to change. What is interesting is that Jonah's message was very short, yet God used it powerfully. In today's world, people often believe they need extraordinary talent, influence, or resources before they can make a difference. But Jonah's story teaches something else. God often works through ordinary acts of obedience: a conversation, an encouraging word, a prayer, a kind action, a courageous decision, a faithful step. The outcome belongs to God. Our responsibility is obedience. You do not have to do everything. You simply need to do what God has asked you to do. God can accomplish far more through simple obedience than we can accomplish through endless striving. Surprisingly, the story ends with Jonah upset. The people of Nineveh have repented, and God has shown mercy. Instead of celebrating, Jonah becomes angry. Why? Because he wanted judgment, not forgiveness. God then uses a plant, a worm, and the scorching wind to teach Jonah a lesson. Jonah cared deeply about a plant that appeared one day and disappeared the next. Yet he struggled to care about thousands of people whom God loved. The final chapter reveals God's heart. God tells Jonah that there are more than 120,000 people in Nineveh who need his compassion. This lesson remains relevant today. It is easy to care only about people who think like us, agree with us, look like us, or treat us well. But God's love extends much further. He cares about the outsider, the struggling person, the difficult person, the person who made mistakes, the person everyone else has written off. God's mercy reaches farther than our comfort zones. If God has been patient with us, He invites us to extend that same grace to others. You can run from God's assignment, but you cannot escape His presence. Our choices affect more people than we realize. God can transform us in our lowest moments. God's second chances are real. Simple obedience can produce extraordinary results. God's compassion is bigger than our preferences. The book of Jonah is not really about a fish. It is about a God who pursues, restores, forgives, and loves. And perhaps that is the greatest whisper of all. No matter where you have been, how far you have run, or what mistakes you have made, God is still calling, still guiding, and still extending His mercy today. Thank you for listening, and until next time, may you hear God's whispers in His Word, and recognize His hand at work in your everyday life.